Woman has been around for over 75 years, which means she's still not as old as Wilfred Brimley, but she's been in a lot of comic books. That can be intimidating, especially if the big screen adaptation has you curious about the amazing Amazon's best stories. That's where we come in. If you're looking to dive into Wonder Woman comics, these are the 5 stories you should read. First up is Gods and Mortals, the story that kicked off a brand new iteration of Wonder Woman in the 80s. A little context, back in 1985, DC decided their continuity complexities were too confusing for new and probably old readers. There were multiple versions of each character existing on different Earths, 2 Supermans, 2 Flashes, etc. In an effort to simplify everything into one universe, they published a miniseries called Crisis on Infinite Earths, which basically started all the characters from scratch. Wonder Woman's new history was written by George Perez, Greg Potter, and Len Wein, and the first arc, which spans the first 7 issues, goes a long way toward redefining the character for a new generation. Gods and Mortals is, ultimately, an origin story. It details how she was formed from clay and was raised on the island of Themyscira by the Amazons. With her powers that were granted by the gods, she journeyed to man's world to stop Ares from starting World War III. Unlike previous versions of the character, this story infused much more Greek mythology from which Wonder Woman was inspired, and which has come to fuel modern stories as well. In a marked change from the character's history to that point, it establishes Steve Trevor not as Wonder Woman's love interest, but more of a big brother character. More importantly, Diana's characterization, as an emissary of peace who'll go all warrior on someone's ass, was a fresh, more three-dimensional view of the character, which has since become her defining characteristic. Gods and Mortals is arguably the seminal Wonder Woman story. Next up is a one-shot story called the HIKETEIA, in which Wonder Woman must protect a woman being hunted for murder by Batman. The story was written by Greg Rucka. Rucka brought the character down to earth, giving her tough choices and big emotional stories, treating her more as a person than a superpowered being. Wonder Woman is arguably the greatest female superhero of all time, yet she's barely ever been written by a woman. Of the few that have gotten the chance to get their hands on the character, there's one whose work continues to be a source of inspiration for readers. I'm talking about Gail Simone, of course. Simone took over the title in 2008 and penned The Circle, which provided a completely new spin on Wonder Woman's origin. Up until this point, we'd been led to believe that Wonder Woman's birth was lovingly accepted by all the Amazons on Themyscira. Not so. As The Circle details, the personal guard of Queen Hippolyta believed that a baby would bring only destruction to the Amazons. When Hippolyta didn't listen to them, they tried to kill baby Diana, and were banished. The Circle is excellent for many reasons. Gail Simone's a great writer, and her collaboration with artists Terry and Rachel Dodson is nothing short of perfect. In 2011, the entire DC universe rebooted after Flashpoint, and once again Wonder Woman's origin was slightly changed. Writer Brian Azzarello brought back much of the epic mythological flavor to the story, and this is no more evident than in the first arc, Blood. Azzarello also revamped Wonder Woman's origin story, making her the product of an affair her mother had with Zeus. Demigod angle aside, the book is dark and wonderfully weird. Hera is a vindictive monster, Poseidon is literally a monster, Hades wants to marry Wonder Woman and has a candlestick in his head, and the Amazons reproduce by having sex with sailors, only to throw away the male children. The innovation alone is worth a read. If all these continuities and origin stories give you a headache, and you're just looking for an epic story of adventures and girl power, you're in luck. Last year, a brilliant version of Wonder Woman's very first origin story, inspired by the version created by William Moulton Marston himself, was published under the name The Legend of Wonder Woman. And best of all, this version, written and illustrated by Renee DeLiz, is 100% family-friendly. The perfect way to introduce the youngins in your life to one of the greatest heroes of all time. So these are our must-reads, which admittedly we pared down for time. If you had about 5 straight weeks, we could supplement the list. But enough about us. What are your top 5 Wonder Woman stories? Let us know, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more.